Okay, some technical issues. Hey everyone, thank you for joining. We have 55 minutes to get a lot of things in this call. This is Tuesday, August 19, the 77th meeting of San Diego Cppquiz Meetup. If you're new, welcome. We meet every, what is size of a, yeah, let's, you know what, keep it to the Cppquiz quiz. We have Cppquiz quiz in a couple minutes. Let's do it. If you're new, let's reconnect in on Discord, and I have the link in a second. If you would like to present anything, just approach me. Be more than happy to accommodate anything. The purpose here is just to learn, and in 55 minutes, just to learn new things and apply it in our work, hopefully. So welcome if you're new, and hope you'll enjoy it. We are 1852. By the way, there is another meetup in San Diego, which I can't remember the number, about 100 people, which is not active. And there was a confusion. People approached me about, oh, there is no moderator to the group. What happened is meetup.com would close a meetup without a moderator, or without someone that is leading the group. That's not the group that you are looking at right now. It's a different group that was not it's not active for many years. So we do have to, I can't remember even the reason or the history behind that. First of all, thank you, JetBrains, sponsoring San Diego Cppquiz Meetup, sponsoring the fees, which is great. I'm a big advocate for CLion, which I think it's a great package. By the way, I have some time that I would like to dedicate, like the last 10 minutes, or maybe less, just to show you AI features on CLion. I played with it. I don't have CLion AI features, like full-blown AI features at work. I have a different IDE that we use, but at home I'm playing with that, and I wanted to show you something which is cool. Okay, I'm Kobe. There is still books that I helped Dorothy as a technical reviewer. So if you want to have like physical books, if you live in San Diego and you want to grab them, please let me know. The Discord link is here on this page. Agenda. So this is what I have. It's kind of packed, and I do want to play with CLion, like 5 minutes with AI Assistant. Let me just ask about AI Assistant. Who's using AI Assistant in their work, like using it very, like, at least heavily, like not at least, but heavily? Dominic, okay. What do you use? Dominic, I can't hear you. I don't know if you're muted.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, where I work, we only have Copilot and GitHub Copilot certified for use, and ChatGPT 4. I'm not sure about 5 yet. If you manually go in and toggle the model training to be off, so that's the only thing we can use. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm using I'm just using Copilot because I mean that's the backend is ChatGPT, so there's no need to use separate interface.
Yeah. And Oleg also saying Copilot. So at work, I have JetBrains with Copilot, but the main IDE that is currently adopted and you probably know that from other people working in NVIDIA, is Cursor. There's a lot of users of Cursors. Is anyone familiar with Cursor?
No, I haven't heard of it. I'm using VS Code, and that has a good integration for GitHub
Yeah,
Copilot.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I still think that CLion has a better overall package. Like a lot of configurations that I need to do in VS Code or Cursor, I'm getting that for free in CLion. So I still prefer CLion as a full package. But what we have is CLion. So JetBrains has all kinds of AI assistants. There is Junie, which I'm not sure that CLion is coming with Junie. I think they just slowly putting that in other IDEs. But yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, come, yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
just to mention something. I I was I recently started using VS Code, and I realized that actually the Copilot plugin in VS Code is way much better than in the JetBrains IDE. I don't know if anyone noticed that.
Okay. I don't like the problem is that you need to compare it. It's sometimes hard, but if you use it a lot, you'll develop some sense of some heuristic that, oh, I feel like this model on like working on this ID is getting a better results. I'm using Cursor with all kinds of models, but also CLion with Copilot. It just I have more models on Cursor supported compared to CLion, like in terms of the number of GPT-5. I think we have like 5 or 6 variants, and Cloud, Sonnet, Opus, all of these, Grok. So at the end of this hour, I'll show you something with CLion that kind of hopefully demonstrate the power of AI assistant. In my opinion, it's a complete transformation of the industry. So if you're not playing with that yet, I suggest you start looking at it, because this is, in my opinion, is going to be it is the future, and the results are pretty amazing, in my opinion. So we'll talk about it at least in the context of CLion. Okay, so let's start with small. Oh, before a quiz. So Packet is also kind of collaborating with me. There is a new book, GPU Programming with C++ and CUDA. There is a GPU 20% discount code that they gave me yesterday. So this should work for, I think this is either ebook or printed book. I don't really know. I think at least it's an ebook that would work for you. Okay, let's have a couple of quiz. Okay, can you see it? Not yet. Now you can see it, right? Okay, so C++ 23. What do you think happened? This should be easy. This is one of the things that we teach in the very beginning of C++. You can shout your guess. Oh, and this could be the options. We have 4 options. For some reason, It's like I don't see that on the screen. Do you see the options? Oh, must assign reference on definition. Okay, so it's going to be a compilation error. True. So there is no such thing int ref j without actually initializing. So that's something which is one of the basic stuff in C++ that we teach. Okay, next. Do you see? I actually kind of confused because I'm looking at I'm swapping the tabs. Do you see the other tab? You don't see the pop-up menu. Yeah, I don't know why. Okay, perfect. So this is 153. What do you think happens here? Yeah. Someone mentioned that. C++. So the conversion is not allowed. So just remember, this is C++. I think it might work. I think might be valid. Yeah, it is. It's an error. Yeah, I don't remember when it became an error, but this is an error. Yeah. Okay. Oh, there was another size off. Okay, who wants to bring the size off? Who was it? Can remember. Was it JB? Was it you? Okay, go ahead. What was the question? Let me see. Tiny aha moment. What is the size of A in C and in C++? People want to guess? It's an int in C, but character in C++. It's not one. It's not one for both. Is it is there an integer promotion somewhere? So it's not one in both. So what is it, JB? Four and one. So 4 in C and 1 in C++. Good to know. Okay. Okay, so this is something that I thought is confusing. So I wanted to use it as something that we can all learn. And this is kind of expired by a C++ Weekly. Hopefully people are familiar with C++ Weekly by Jason Turner. Jason Turner is one of the more familiar names in the industry, trainer that you can hire for your company, and he's a speaker in many conferences. He has few books, puzzle books, and C++ Weekly is something that he started around 2016, 2015. And yeah, Denver C++ Meetup. Yes, true. He's hosting. Oh, you're coming from Denver C++ Meetup, which is from what I understand is a very good meetup with very good content. So that's awesome. And I know Jason. I met him a few times in conferences. He's a super nice person. So one of the things that so I'm obviously following him also on Patreon, and one of the things that I wanted to highlight is couple of his C++ Weekly that talk about Constexpr and static keywords. So there are two things that I would like to share, and feel free to kind of watch that. It's very interesting because there's benchmarks that I'm not going to show, but I'm going to just mention. Okay, so let's dive into that. one of the things that we all confuse, and I also saw AI confuse, is like, when do you use Constexpr and when do you use static Constexpr? It can be confusing. And there's implication about linkage, initialization, and things change a bit between versions of C++. Okay, let's talk about headers. Okay, so pre C++ 17, without inline, each compilation that includes static Constexpr will get its own copy. So using inline static Constexpr would allow compiler to do some magic and merge them across multiple compilation unit. C++ 17 beyond, Constexpr actually is implicit inline, which brings us to conclusions very soon. So let's look at the kind of a table that gives us some information. So Constexpr is basically external linkage, implicitly inline from 17. This is the correct and modern standard way, which is recommended, right? It creates a single across your entire program. Inline is correct, kind of redundant, because it's already implied Constexpr, especially in C++ 17. It's verbose by harmless. Static Constexpr, you want to avoid that. Each CPP will get its own private copy. This is not something that you want, and you can measure that, and you can see the bloating, especially if it's something that include maybe a large array. So you'll see the bloating in each compilation unit, and you don't want that. Okay, how about functions? So in JSON C++ Weekly, a couple of them, he actually has a very nice comparison. Long story short, JSON look at two different options. One is with static, like inside a function with static, and one without static. A Constexpr variable declared without static, it's basically a stack variable. If you do static, it's not stack variable. He also mentioned that because it's using std_array, with std_array compilers can do all kinds of computation and calculation at compile time, even if it's Constexpr without static. So it can do all kinds of computation in compile time, which helps. So the nice thing is he shows a lot of benchmarks with different options, and he discovered the following: with a small size, and there are some nuance between optimization versus non-optimization, and GCC versus Clang, but what he's showing is that using small size arrays with optimization, Clang produced the same code in both cases, like with or without. GCC, however, was faster in small sizes with Constexpr without the static. So this is important because the bottom line is that we recommend, let's say we, like Jason and probably others, in general, you recommend people to use static Constexpr function scope. However, there is some differences between small and large size. So while GCC has better results without a static, in large size, static becomes better. So that's something that you need to remember. But the bottom line is, and this is what I'm doing, just kind of following these guidelines, using static Constexpr, that, for example, std_array in function scope. And there is a quick bench results that you can take a look. Now, this is kind of an old, this is kind of an old C++ Weekly. So things can change across different compiler versions, let's say newer compiler version might show different results, but still, I would follow the same recommendation, static Constexpr for declaring compile time constant in function scope. So here's an example. Header file I mentioned, you can remove the inline. It's implicitly inline with Cppquiz 17. You want to use static Constexpr in function scope. If you don't use static, it's usually on the stack, right? And just to summarize, Constexpr might be faster without static in small size, just like you have here in std_array. Larger size, and there is a threshold where it becomes in favor of using static. I think 2048 was kind of the breaking point. Okay, so there is another Cppquiz weekly. Let's go over that quickly because this is kind of repeating, but just have more information. So same idea, same conclusions. You have Constexpr array, for example, 100,000. If you use static Constexpr in headers, you're basically bloating your CPP. What Jason noted, and this is important, is that if you're using static inline Constexpr, the keyword static kind of negate the inline. So don't use static with inline because it's not gonna work. So he's showing that executables actually become very bloated in static inline Constexpr. Just use Constexpr. There is no need to have static. Constexpr would imply inline from Cppquiz 17. You should be good in terms of removing any bloating from your executables. Okay, again, local scope for function, static Constexpr, header file, Constexpr. Don't use static. Cppquiz Constexpr implies inline. So basically what you see here, no need for inline, just verbose and redundant. Inside function, just use static Constexpr. It might be confusing, but it makes sense. Now, what about, this is not from the Cppquiz weekly. I was thinking, okay, what about the class struct type scope? So for data members of a struct or class, static is required for Constexpr. Now, the logic behind is that Constexpr is something in compile time, which means that it's not tied to an instance. It is tied to a type. So instead of kind of memorizing, think about static being tied to a type and not to every single instance. So static Constexpr is basically the recommended one. And it's implicitly inline since Cppquiz 17. So you should be good. This is an example of how to use that. This is also working well, but I would recommend using static. Okay, any questions? Hopefully this actually resolved a lot of questions that people had. And I also saw that AI providing wrong guidelines. So that's something that I've noticed. So keep an eye when it's generating that. Okay. There is a person that I'm following on LinkedIn. I don't know if I pronounce his name correctly. Hakan Gedek. Sorry if I butchered the name, but he posted something which really nice, which I thought would be very interesting to go over because we can learn a lot of things. And it also reminded me something that back in the beginning of 2000, 2002 or 2003, Andre had something similar in his modern C++ design, which I think was named, like there was a chapter, I think chapter 3 was named type list. And this actually reminded me that, but just providing a more modern C++ syntax. So let's dive into that. So let's assume that you want to validate types existing in specific list before the program even runs, okay, in compile time. So that we kind of delve into generic programming. Generic programming, if you kind of familiar with that, that's great. If you're not, it's basically compile time programming. It's a program that generates a program, you know, if not the official naming, but helps. And we'll see what does it mean in a second. Utilizing compile time programming can help us to save time in runtime and can validate stuff before we actually even running. So that's something which is really useful. So let's think about a type list or a type map that I would like to create in runtime. And I want to have a Boolean constant that tell me if a specific type exists in a specific list. And there are multiple, by the way, multiple ways to do that. I just thought that this would be a very good exercise for the group when we talk about generic programming. Okay, so first of all, let's define a type that holds a list. Okay, so there are multiple ways to do that. This is just one of them. And this is basically kind of a recursive way to define that. So the type info holds a type and p-type kind of parent type that has the rest of the types. And then we have one type that just defined one t. It's the second one. It's the base case, basically ending the recursion. Like every recursion, there is something that ends the recursion. Now, there are multiple ways to do that. I'll mention that multiple times. And here the parent type is void. So, which means that we are hitting the end. Someone said C++26 provides reflection. True, I think we mentioned reflection last time. I think this would be complete transformation of the language. So I'm super excited to have that. Though usually we are lagging. When say we, companies or teams in companies are lagging behind the standard for a few years. For example, I'm using 20. We are more than mid 2025, right? So I'm not using 2023. Like I'm not using C++23. I'm using C++20. At C++20, I was the one moving the team to C++20, and it was the end of the year last year. So before that, we were 17. So we were 2024 with C++17. So we are lagging behind. So I'm thinking C++26 would be very like would be, I don't know, at least 4 years lagging in some cases. In defense, we are using we're just upgrading to 17. I actually know companies that still using 98. They actually have a hard time to move to 11, even to 11, which is that's just the code is written in a way that it's so hard to move it to 11 that even this one is hard. So, but it is slow. So if Scott, if you're moving to 17, I would assume that you were at 11 or 14. By the way, if you are in 11, at least upgrade to 14 because the increment is small. 14 is kind of a bug fix. And Jason has his best practice book, and he's saying if you are in 11, just automatically move to 14, because it's a incremental, small incremental. It's a back fix. Some make unique. There's some stuff that we're missing. This good to have polymorphic lambda, all kinds of other stuff. Okay. Let's define a Constexpr has type, and here we're using if Constexpr 17. This is 17, and we're using type traits. If t is the same as type, and as a reminder, type is t, then we are basically when we traverse the list and we're hitting a specific t that is the same as what we're looking at, then we are good. Okay, so we return true. Otherwise, if it's not, void. If we're not hitting the end, let's take a look at the next, at the remaining of the list. By the way, if you're coming from Scheme, this should be very, very familiar to you. I learned Scheme in 1997, appreciating more today than in 1997. But this is they're very similar to what Scheme has in terms of list handling list. Then if we're hitting, otherwise we're hitting void, and this is not a type. So there's some caveat, like we cannot have has type when we're holding a void. So that's one of the caveat that I noticed when I was reading the code. Okay, so how do you use it? Okay, so you have a type info that has int, float, and double, and then you holding a list of types. You can query: do you have an int? Do you have a boolean? Do you have a string? And you can print that. And this is super useful in a lot of generic programming. And the code is very simple. Like having this has type and type info is very simple. So let's take a look at what happened when we start adding CPass 20. So that's a good kind of exercise on using concept. If you're not familiar with concept, this is the very simple example coming from CPass 20. So concept was introduced in CPass 20. So we define a new concept on template T, same as p-type void. So not on that one. It's a parent. So it's a parent. So what do we do here? We have has type requirement function, same idea as the previous one, but now the first branch is the same. The second one is basically kind of a syntactic sugar of what we had before. If it's a parent T, which means that the type T P is not void, so we're not hitting the end, then we moving to the next, to the parent, to the rest of the list, otherwise it's false. So that's a nice usage of concept, having this expression versus this long one. So think about concept in many contexts, not only in templates, or like templates type, instead of type name you have a concept, or in having an auto something in parameter, but also kind of simplifying an expression. And this should be more readable when say, okay, if we have the rest of the list is valid, it's not, which is not void. If you look at the implementation itself, might be more readable. So that's something you can think about when you're looking at concept. So the idea here was to kind of go over generic programming, type list, very simple type list implementation, has type with and without concept. If you're using CPass 20, start integrating concept more and more to your templates. It makes code a bit more readable, maybe even more than a bit. Uh, if you're, again, I'm talking about AI assistant, use AI assistant to help you refactor. If you're using C++20, help you refactor a specific class type and other expressions that using templates, and simplify it using concepts, and see if you like the results. It is making code much more easy to understand because it's simplified. So think about it, and again, use AI assistant for that. Okay, this is something interesting that I found on Reddit, and I didn't even realize that this is actually a huge issue in C++. Uh, how many of you using studnext, studprev, and studadvance? Just curious. This is basically pointer arithmetic. Well, I would say the right way. How many using that instead of using iterator plus whatever, or pointer, which is like iterator plus? Someone says plus plus and minus for the win. That's the first two. Okay, so this is actually something that just keep in mind that this exists. I will tell you something that I realized, that if you using Clang Tidy and it has a rule to avoid or to discourage you using pointer arithmetic, this is something studnext, studprev, and studadvance is something that you can use in an environment when Clang Tidy is deployed and the rule of pointer arithmetic is discouraged. So just keep that in mind. There is hope using these three. Okay, so next prev, they are not modifying your iterator. They're returning an iterator. Studadvance, return void. So studadvance is the only one that is moving backward or forward. So you have negative n. And I'm just memorizing that. So I don't know if there is a better way to just remember, but I'm just memorizing that studnext and prev return return a new iterator, while they're not changing, while advance is something that changing that. Studnext needs forward iterator, studprev needs bidirectional iterator, and input iterator is required for advance. So forward, backward, forward, bidirectional. Okay, so what is the issue? Which I wasn't aware of until just recently when I was like going over Reddit. Okay, so studnext and studprev, they picking at the next or prev without changing the iterator. Okay, so let's take a look at example. You have vector of 5 elements. And let's say you begin +2. So you have an iterator, and iterator is not changing. You're always getting a new one. Okay, so you never lose your position. It's never changing. So far, it's pretty easy. Nothing fancy here. Advance is moving that. So if you have an iterator, comma 3, it moves 3 forward. So it prints 40 in this case. So L dot begin, move 3, 1, 2, 3, so it points 40. So what happened with studprev? So let's say you have a forward list defined somewhere, and you have a begin plus plus IT. So your iterator moved. Now you want to have a prev of IT. The problem here is that forward a forward only forward list. It's not std list, but it's forward list. Doesn't have a bidirectional iterator, but this actually compiles and run. What it's going to produce depends on luck and other things in the universe. This is a UB. It might crash. It might produce incorrect results. We don't know, but there is no enforcement, not in runtime, not in compile time. And I didn't realize it until recently because I'm using std_prev and std next quite a lot when I need to do iterator manipulation, and it just helps me to do that. So remember, there's the default is 1, by the way, for n in prev and next. So what you see here is that prev it is like (1). So if you look at CPP reference, it's not only to all container types. This is actually something that I again wasn't aware of. So if you have std_view transform and you try to do std_prev on that, this is also an issue. Okay, so that would be whatever kind of a UB. You don't really know what's happened simply because the return iterator is not bidirectional. I wasn't aware of that fact until recently, that std_view transform doesn't give you a bidirection that you can use for std_prev, for example. Okay, undefined behavior. So calling std_prev on forward iterator was not enforced until recently, and it's pretty dangerous. It's kind of hard to detect unless you're running sanitizers or something like that. It looks like a working code. It's compiling, and hopefully it's crashing. But now we have a fix. Okay, the fix is in lib C++, lib C++. So there are two main libraries. One is lib_std_C++ that is shipped with GNU, and Clang LLVM can work with two libraries. One is libc++ that is shipped with Clang LLVM, but it can also work with, if you have an installed lib_std_C++ that comes from GNU, it can also work with that. So let's take a look at what's happening here. So this is the first one is libs. So this is the code that I showed you before. It's transform of ranges, std_views transform that gives me an iterator. We print that, and then we do prev on the end, which bidirectional iterator would work perfectly with that, but not in this case. So this is 21.0 std_C++. So this is not libc++ that has the fix. This is lib_std_C++. You can see what happened here. Okay, when you try to print something, which is insane. Okay, GCC gives you 25, which looks strange. Clang 19, so before the fix, with libc++ gives you some garbage value. And finally, libc++ with the fix on 21.0 actually has a compile error, which is exactly what we want. Now, let me jump. So it's basically using static assert, looking at bidirectional iterator tag. It's making sure that the iterator that is provided is with a specific requirement. So that's basically all the secret of maybe not all, not oversimplifying the fix, but basically we would like to make sure that there is a bidirectional iterator when we're passing that to stud prev, which I wasn't aware. I'm now more kind of aware of that issue, and I'm making sure that code that is written either by myself, AI, peers, when using stud prev, it's actually the data that is passed is correct. I'm mostly using GCC and Clang, but I can remember right now if you're using Clang with stud C++ or we're using lib C++, which I need to take a look if we are using lib C++. I think we're using lib C++ for Clang because we're not passing a different. So the way to do that is passing a different dash std, which I don't think we do that. So probably lib C++ is what we have. Just remember that stud prev, stud advance, and stud next, they are useful. Make sure that stud prev is used correctly with the right iterator traits. Make sure that it's bidirectional and can go backward. Otherwise, without a proper fix that is checking that the iterator can go back, you'll get in the good case crashes. Otherwise, something bad. Okay, we have 8 minutes, a bit less, on playing with AI. I wanted to show you. I don't know how. I don't have a sense of how many of you are familiar with AI assistants, because I think this is the future. And I want to show you something that I quickly did over the weekend. When we're just gonna have 5 minutes. Okay, let me share. Okay. Okay, so this is my CLion, and again, I'm super excited with what's happening today in the industry with respect to AI assistant. I think this is pretty much crazy. So what I wanted to show you is just one method of using AI assistant, and I'm using CLion for that. And let's start by highlighting the workflow. So I had nothing. This is a new project, kind of a greenfield. There was nothing there. And let me show you the chat. And I wanted to provide you something that I can run. So I thought, okay, what could be a good example? Game of life. Okay. So what I wanted to do is to have the AI creating this from scratch. And I have 2 phases when I have a big task, and this is not typical. Usually I'm not dumping everything in one, like the whole feature in one shot, but it worked. I usually break it to multiple smaller features and keep the context window very, very small when chatting with the AI, or basically using the AI assistant. And I'm encouraging you to go and search and use AI assistant that actually agents that modify your code versus you ask something the model, and the model gives you maybe diff or maybe some snippet of code, and you take and paste it. I think it is one way to kind of do that, but use IDEs and AI assistants that actually change your code and review the code that is changing, that the AI model is changing, because there might be mistakes. The models that I have in my current program, and you can see here that I have 2 days. So I have a free the free tier from JetBrain. These are the models that I have. Actually, there are here a few more, but the main models are here. There's a few GPT, Sonnet 4. There is no Opus here, but there are other ones. So I use mostly GPT-5 for this exercise. Okay, so the workflow is the following: like two phases at least. One is in the prompt, I'm explaining what I would like to do in terms of the feature, and I'm asking first to build a plan. So I want to have a spec written. So this is the first iteration. So one of the things that I realized a few months ago, so I'm using AI assistant for the past 6-7 months, probably 6 months. One of the things that I realized after a few months of using it is to ask the model if it has questions, and you'll be surprised what questions the model asks you and how good the question that the model asks you is actually asking you all kinds of things that you didn't think about yet, corner cases, and it's great. So eventually, since we have a few minutes and I wanted to show you, the model would give you I'm trying to see if there is a way to render that. Okay, so the model would give you a plan in Markdown about like what to do and how to use it. And okay, I want to have C++ 20 or 23. I think I used is 20, and I would like to have it in more than C++. You're maybe referring that to documents, for example, the C++ core guidelines, and it's actually created a very good code. Oh, I told the model I want CLI 11, which is a library for CLI. So it went and figured out, added fetch content for CLI 11. GTest, it went and added fetch content for GTest. So the model did a very good job having everything correctly. It would ask me, okay, do you want clank tidy? Do you want all of that stuff? And like what namespace, structure of the directories, all these tiny things that helps you to make your project kind of solid. And okay, let me see. I want to run it. Okay, let's run it like this. Okay. So unfortunately, it's not running in a terminal. Okay, maybe I should do this. 1 second. Maybe I should run it in a terminal. 1 second. Give me a sec. Game of life. Okay. Okay. Let me share that one. Okay, so this is the one, and this is it's asking you all kinds of parameters and all of that, and the command line options. If you do dash dash help, it would give you all of that. So okay, let me share again, and we can conclude that. Okay, so what I wanted to make a note before we finish is that you start with a planning, okay, and you refine it. Okay, so read the plan and execute the plan. Stop and ask any questions, providing the attachment, and it would ask a ton of questions, and eventually it would generate the code. Then I had a few issues. Hopefully you can see my screen because I lost. Okay, you can. So there were issues of clunky tidiness. Okay, I have these issues. Fix that. I wanted to see how well it's doing fixing the issues because I'm not familiar with the model. I'm not using GPT usually for that. And then eventually I wanted to create README. So all of that was done by the AI, just by explaining what I want, what kind of behavior. I pointed it to a Wikipedia of Game of Life that explains the rule and all, and it read that and managed to get the results. So I hopefully it gives you a bit of, if you're not using AI assistant. Someone asked if I saw integrate cloud code into JetBrains IDE. So I do have. Just before the meeting, I wanted to install. So it is installed with Node. I don't have any cloud code paid subscription. So yeah, it is. I didn't play with it still in the IDE. So cloud code, I think it's kind of agnostic to IDEs. So you can it's actually on the CLI, and then your IDE would change as you're working on the CLI. So I still don't have a lot of experience with cloud code, but yeah, there is an integration with that which I need to play with. Okay, any question about this AI? Hopefully I got you excited about trying it out in JetBrains or maybe other IDEs. Any questions? Anyone would like to provide any? Thank you. And any experience that someone wants to share before we close it about AI assistant? I'm
Can I
super.
ask
Yeah.
what's the plugin that you used just now?
This is AI assistant plugin, and they have different tiers. I'm using the free one, and like they have like I think like 3 or 4 tiers.
So is this one a paid or free
This is
version?
free. This is free, and for example, let's spend another couple minutes. So I didn't have a chance to work on actually trying the auto completion and all, but let me see if I do something like this. You can do explain code. Obviously, this is in if you're using Copilot, this is something that you're probably familiar with. So it would explain. But one of the things that I might not have in the free tier would be code completion, like a smart code completion, like a very, very good one. But for example, I would like to just ignore the invalid case style. Clunked ID has specific, the clunked ID that I have here has specific rules for code conventions, which I added later and the model didn't use. But for that, I would ask, for example, okay, so that's refactoring. Like what I'm trying to have the AI assistant tell me is that it's nice to have the initialization, the in-class initialization, and but again, I'm using the free tier at work. I'm using Cursor, and company provide me like full access to very premium AI assistant. So I'm getting like insane. Oh, actually, it's actually telling me, okay, can do that. The funny part is that it's when it apply, this is nice, but I would like this to be removed, and this, I don't know, this should not happen. But what I wanted to do is to get this. Okay, for some reason. Okay, acceptable. Oh, okay, I needed to have acceptable. Okay, so that's why there was an acceptable above. I'm not familiar. For example, okay. And there is accept here. That's what I needed to click before. So this is free. This is a free tier, and it's reset every 5 days. So I have a specific quota that created all of that stuff. Just play with it. It is something that worth playing with. Okay, folks, kind of over time now. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully, you got some taste from AI assistant. Thank you all. Take care.